Welcome to the Abundant Mind Show, where we show you literally how when you can change your thoughts, you can change your mindset, you can change your life. And I have a guy who not only is one of the biggest cheerleaders and advocates for you, helping you be your best, but he's a challenger. He's a disruptor when it comes to the world of chiropractic, mindset, and how to be able to use your individual talents and your life experience to get you there. I've got Dr. Dan. Dan, I am so happy to have you on the show. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Dr. Jake. Hey, great job with the podcast so far. First day I met you, man, I was like, this guy is destined for greatness. So I love seeing what the stuff that you guys are putting out right now. Awesome stuff.
Oh, thank you, brother. The whole point, again, is for people to understand that they really have within themselves greatness. You know, in a world, in a universe where we can have absolutely everything we want, why would we think potato chips? Why would we think breadcrumbs when we can have absolutely everything we want? And you guys, Dan, he's a practicing chiropractor in Chicago. He is the founder and the CEO of Close for Chiro, teaching chiropractors how to be the best chiropractors they can be so they can change the world through chiropractic. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But I would love people to understand who you are and where you came from. I have found in my life, it's very easy to look at someone. You look at like Viktor Frankl. You look at these wonderful people who have these, we know all about their life story, and we think, oh, I'm not that person. But everyone has a story. Everyone has a background that is unique, that can propel them towards greatness and towards achieving great things. And I love if you shared with us your background of who you are, where you come from, and how you've come to be such a successful entrepreneur, not only in the chiropractic world, but man, I mean, you just did an incredible podcast with some good friends of mine, Brian Bogart and Dave Meltzer, and you are changing this world. I'd love for people to understand how you got here.
Oh, thanks, Jake. Thanks for that intro. Truly honored and humbled. And humbled is the key word here, because listening to introduce me, it's a bit surreal, because it wasn't just, I don't know, felt like yesterday, where I would hear someone like you say, you're destined for greatness. Everything that you can achieve is attainable. I remember hearing those exact words over 10, maybe 15 years ago. And I'm saying to myself, bull honky. I don't believe it.
I don't buy it.
I am not destined for greatness. I'm just a regular dude. I'm invisible. I have nothing really to offer this world other than what's in front of me right now. And I look at a guy like you, for example, great threads, nice pocket square, looking dressed to the nines, great trim beard, all that stuff. And I was like, I can't be like him or her. They're so eloquent. They're so quick on their feet. They have such unique qualities that people can relate to. No wonder they're successful. And I remember thinking to myself, I'll never really be one of those people. Understand, my background is probably similar to a lot of the people that are listening to this podcast right now. And I came from pretty humble beginnings. My parents are from Seoul, South Korea. And I got South Korea. I got to distinguish that these days, not North Korea. You don't meet people from North Korea because they don't get out. That's but right. In South Korea.
That's true.
And yeah. And I was born there. I moved here with my parents when I was like 3 or 4 years old. And a typical immigrant family story, small business in New York City, just a claim to fame for my parents. Their biggest customers were Run DMC and Two Live Crew back in the day in the 80s in Rosedale, Queens. And I grew up, in the shadows. I grew up a typical immigrant family. And if you know anything about immigrant families, I got a lot of shit from my parents. You're not good enough. Why didn't you get an A+ when I come home with an A? Very stereotypical. All true, Jake. All true. And I grew up, and, I don't blame my parents for this. It's just how it was. But it was always like, don't rock the boat. Don't get into confrontations. Just blend in, because that was the immigrant mentality. It was, you don't want to make everyone look at you weird. You're already kind of weird looking. So I grew up a lot of that, not just from in my own household, Jake, but I also grew up with it, in my social circles. I was always the person that was underestimated, that didn't really do anything spectacular, nothing great, but nothing bad either. Grew up a ton of racism back in the 80s in New York City. I mean, and it was honestly, it was one of those things where I just felt like Like that was my destiny. Like I was just going to be the guy in the cubicle to push paper and crunch numbers, although I break all Asian stereotypes because I am horrible at math. Jake, you know that. I'm so bad at math. I break all the Asian stereotypes. But that's kind of who I thought I was going to be until I became a chiropractor. And I realized something. I was like, you know what? I have something here that can literally change the lives of people. Now I had some type of responsibility. That was step one. And as Spider-Man or Uncle Ben always says, with great power becomes great responsibility. And then I started my my journey on the world of owning a business and serving, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, with the mentality of you're not good enough, the mentality of don't rock the boat, don't take risks. You can only imagine the amount of despair and rejection and failure I experienced right out of school, trying to get my practice up and running. And that was pretty heartbreaking, Jake, because I think I've told the story before many times. There was a point in my career about 3 or 4 years in where it was so bad, the plethora of rejections and all the failures, where I decided, you know what? Maybe this thing called being in business or being a professional isn't for me. And I remember that day because I went online and I looked up chiropractic and I looked up business and all the things. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe I should go into like real estate. I don't know why I said real estate because it's probably just as hard. I want to do, I don't know, maybe I should just, be an employee. I mean, because it just didn't fit and I was not getting anywhere. And I almost quit everything altogether. So that's my background story. I'm sorry it's not all lollipops and unicorns, Jake, but that's how it all started for me.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
So do you feel when you're going through that difficulty, because this is what I hear consistently from the greats like you, do you feel that at that time, because I know the first time I heard you speak, we were at this incredible hotel in Massachusetts in a really nice area with super affluent, influential people. And I remember the first time hearing you talk, I was getting a drink of water and you told a joke that literally it came out my nose. And I thought, I'm like, who is that? I'm like, oh my gosh, you use such humor, perfectly timed humor. And I could really see that this guy he is showing up as his authentic self. Would you say that at that time, were you trying to be the professional, be the doctor, be the chiropractor, but you weren't being you?
Yes.
Would you say
Jake,
that was truth?
100% absolutely the truth. And it's funny you bring that up because humor is my go-to. Listen, if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. That's just bottom line. So, and I am a consummate consumer of really good humor. You know what I mean? We're talking intellectual. We're talking like humor, a couple layers deep. I call them humor or joke bombs, where someone tells you something funny, but you don't laugh about it until later that night. That's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. And humor is one of those things. I've always been that way. But yeah, you're right. I tried to fit into this mold of, have to be quote professional, and I have to like make sure I watch everything that I say, that I can't drop an F-bomb here or there because that's unprofessional. I have to wear a white coat. I have to look the part. And that really constricted me. And some of you who are listening to this right now, and congratulations for hopping on this one. This is one of the best podcasts out there right now about the proper mindset, not the cliche mindset, the proper mindset of success. And here it is right here is that, and I'm sure you have a ton of great guests, and they're going to tell you something very similar. I can almost guarantee it, is that they did not break through until they said, I'm just going to be me, right? And I'm going to polarize my audience to the people who absolutely adore me and love me, and people who could care less or don't like you. And once I realized that, all right, can't be all things to all people, cliche saying, but so true. I'm just going to be myself. And I remember the talk that you're talking about, I take risks, and that's totally okay. And sometimes I tell some off-color jokes, but you know what? Once I do, you have everyone's attention. The worst thing that you can do in the world of success and business is to say and do things that create apathy. Like, who cares? Who cares? I've heard this before. Someone shoot me. Like, if I ever do anything that makes people feel apathetic, please, like, bring the hook out, Jake. Get me off stage because I'm not doing my job.
You guys, he hit something so true. A lot of us think that before, we have this vision, we have a dream, right? We have a dream of what is possible. We have a dream of where I want to go and where I want to be. I remember going through school with my wife. We went to school in Dallas, and there's a part where, where a lot of former presidents live, Tony Robbins, you've got Mark Cuban. They have this, they live in this area, and we had access to their neighborhood and to drive through, and we would dream, this is where we are going to be. But so many people don't live to where they want to go. They say, well, I'm going to live this way. I'm going to talk this way. I'm going to think this way. I'm going to do this way. And then I'll be. If you aren't being now, so many people think that it's going to happen. Well, what we do some of the time, we do all the time. You guys don't realize, and you don't realize that you are exactly who people want. Yes. Why cast a net and catch 10,000 fish when you're going for king salmon? You need to be able to market. And this guy teaches you how your authentic self will help you market yourself and help you create a business and a mindset that attracts only the people that light you up and that you can help light up in return.
Oh, that's so true. And I'm going to punctuate what you just said. We can talk 3 hours about this particular topic altogether, but it's a delusion. The delusion I'm talking about is who I am is something that other people do not want. What I know is something that other people could care less about.
Yes.
What I stand for is something that other people don't stand for. That is all delusion. And I want to let everyone know, and I'm going to tap on the camera lens right here, guys. Like, that is a delusion. And the only way you're going to know that what you have is uniquely valuable, and this is not just a pump up, like high five, like walk on coals type of moment here. I'm just telling you, there's anyone who's listening to this right now, there are things about you, who you are, what you know, what you're about, that is specifically unique, that somebody else, and I'm talking a lot of other people, can relate to, that can latch onto, that can say, I like this person because of this. And that's going to be of value. So never, ever take for granted those things. Can I give you an example, Jake?
Please.
Okay. So like one of the things that we teach, for example, is rapport building. Now, it's a cliche thing in the world of business, is how to build rapport. And everyone thinks that you build rapport by just talking about like, yourself and how great you are and all these things. Now, this is a common knowledge thing, I thought, for a long time. Like, I would build rapport with all of my prospects, my patients, or any business associates in a proper way. Let them express what they want and how they are, and making sure that you're listening and not talking. Like, this is like common knowledge, right? It wasn't until we started teaching this stuff that I realized that is not common knowledge. Jake, people screw up the rapport building phase of a relationship like right off the bat. And they do it wrong every time. Now, watch this. I did not know that this was not common knowledge until I went out and started teaching it. So in other words, there are things that you know how to do that you think everyone knows how to do. You think who you are is what everyone is like. But really, in reality, what you have is that unique. It's like, oh my God. I remember back in the day, I was like, oh my God, dude, they don't know how to do this. How could that be? It's because they just don't. And you have a specific skill that other people don't know how to do. And we just got to get over that.
Yeah. And that's true. In rapport building, we always try to find common ground, right? And, if someone's had an injury, in order to try to understand where they're coming from, you think, have I had that same injury, or have I had that same thing? And I would love if we gave an on the spot classic example of this. Should we talk about carpentry?
Sure, man.
But let's do
carpetology.
Carpetology. And so this is just one of the examples that Dan gives, is a lot of times in building rapport, when someone in front of you is an expert that you are trying to build rapport with, and you're trying to understand them so you can help change their life in any aspect, if it's a business relationship, if it's personal, whatever it is. But we think we have to one up, or we think we have to share our commonality with their expertise. All right. So I'm the prospect, Dan.
Okay.
I'm a carpenter, right?
Got it.
Hit it.
All right. So we're going to do it the wrong way first. This is
the wrong way first. Wrong way first.
All right. So
guys,
so
this
Jake,
seems obvious. It seems obvious, but once you hear it, it's going to slap you upside your head.
So Jake, you're a carpenter.
Yeah. Carpenter.
Okay, so what kind of carpentry do you do?
Oh, so I do, from cabinets to, I do like banisters and whatnot, but
Mm.
actually my expertise that I found I'm really good with is flooring.
Ah, yeah. I love flooring. I did my whole basement flooring last summer. I watched a YouTube video. I gotta tell you, man, I thought it would be difficult, but piece of cake. I just got the corners just right. It was a whole math problem. I mean, it only took me 14 years, but I actually eventually got it done. But yeah, I love carpetology. It's just one of my favorite things in the whole world.
Yeah. Awesome. So, all right. So what's next?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you want to put your foot in your mouth. That is one thing. But I'll tell you the psychology behind that as the person one-upping. Because when you're more concerned about your resume in front of the people that you're talking to, and as opposed to their resume, this is classically what happens. People love to share what they know. They love to share their expertise, and we all know we've been in social situations, Jake, with one-uppers, right? I don't know about you, but that's the last person I want to talk to that night. You know what I'm saying? We start talking about watches, and they go, "Oh, I have, I talk about, oh, I like, I have a, Patek Philippe at home. It's awesome. Well, I have, which one do you have?" And I got this one, and they're like, "Oh, I have that one." I'm like, "Okay, great. You asked me about my watch just so you can tell me about your watch, like whatever." Cars, same thing. Homes, careers. Like everyone's a one upper, and we all
Golf
know
clubs.
we just want to get out of town, man.
Yeah. And you guys, that's so common. In talking to somebody to be able to say, "Oh yeah, I looked up on YouTube how to do what you do so well." And I'm like, "Oh, really? So you could just do my job off YouTube?" Great.
Exactly.
And being able to put people in the light that they deserve to be in, being able to create rapport is such a critical mindset. But you have to be, as Dave Meltzer teaches, be more interested in the person in front of you than interesting.
Correct. I love that.
Talk to that. Show. What are some of the things that you have found that allows you to really understand who people are and to help guide them to where they can possibly be by how you've lived your life?
So I'm gonna tell you a little story too. So right after chiropractic school, I don't know if I told the story, but I was a starving, first year chiropractor, right? And so I used to work like 10-hour shifts, for peanuts. But then we just had a baby. We just got married, living in New York City, which we all know how expensive that is. So I needed a side gig. There was no other way for me to do this. So a patient of mine said, "You know what? You should, you're good with your hands. You're pretty good at math." Little do they know. You should deal poker at the underground poker rooms. I was like, that might actually work because I can do it off hours. So I took a job dealing in an underground poker room back in like the late 90s when poker was all the craze. And these are quasi-legal facilities, okay? And I used to deal cards there, and I was just, I learned how to do it, and I would do it till we get off work at like 7. I would deal cards from like 8 to midnight, and then get home and do it all over again. And but at that point, I thought poker was just like, like a casino game. I didn't know nothing about it. But then I started realizing, like, you know what? The same knuckleheads are winning every night. Like, this is the pattern that you pick up. It's like, wait a second, this is not a game of variance. This is not so random. If the same dudes are winning every night, there's something to this. So that got me interested. I was like, what are they doing? So I started to watch them, right? And I started learning the game, and I started playing myself. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I'll tell you what was interesting is poker, which is one example of a game that a lot of other games have in common. They're social experiments, Jake. They are designed for you to go in and test how correct your perceptions are about others. Mm. How right on are you about what the other guy is thinking? What can you predict their behavior? Okay. Can you pick up on patterns? The only way that you can do that, okay, is to essentially mute yourself out and put all of your attention on picking up what the other person is saying and doing over a longer period of time. And I believe that was my first lessons in sales and marketing, was perspective. Because honestly, I don't care what industry you're in. And if you're listening to this, you may be a dentist, a chiro, a real estate agent, you know, who knows, right? Some type of entrepreneur. You'll never be as successful as you need to be unless you can consistently and persistently get into the perspective of your prospects. Okay. Understanding where they come from, why they're thinking the way they're thinking, why they do what they do. If you're consistently just focusing on what you're doing, it's like the poker player only playing his card. So you're only going to be focusing on what you have in front of you. And if you do that, you'll never, in the game of poker anyway, exploit what other people are doing. Now, in the game of poker, you're exploiting it, okay? But in the world of sales and business and service, you're using that to the advantage of helping them get to their particular solution, to their particular selfish problem. And that takes practice, right, Jake? You can't just do it one time and be like, oh, I got it. It's a constant, you're always looking for ways to get into a better perspective from your of your prospects. And one of the best ways to do that, here's a do level thing, is a concept we teach is STFU. You know what that stands for.
That's right. But in my terminology, it's shut the heck up. So many times we're putting our feet in our foot in our mouth. And in chiropractic, you know, my goal is, I know for a fact that, you know, and a lot of us, you know, when you hear the word sales, people think of slimy car salesman, you know, the 1990, you know, Miami Vice, you know, look, and it's some slimy guy, but we look at it as we are literally changing people's lives. We are changing and giving hope to people's lives. And if we can't help them understand and see the value of it, we have done them and the world a disservice, and their lives are at risk. And being able to see people on that level, but you have to be able to understand them and take them through that process.
All the time, every single time. And I'm glad you brought that up about service, because and sales. And yeah, sales gets a bad rap. To us, sales is part of the service. In other words, when you're, quote, selling them, what you're actually doing is giving them an opportunity to present to you what their actual problem is, which is a part of the process, right? I mean, as clinicians, me and you have been doing this for a while, Jake, but you know, the best outcomes are when the patient actually comes to you and says, hey, Dr. Jake, here's my problem, unadulterated, uncensored, down to the core. That puts you in a position clinically, in this particular case, to serve them the best that you absolutely can, right? Okay, yes. Let's talk real estate agent, for example. When can a real estate agent give someone the best service? When the buyer tells them, real estate agent, this is exactly what I want. This is what I'm envisioning. This is my dream. I want a walk-in closet. I want to turn right when I get into the foyer, not left. I want, you know, high peaks. Like, the more that you can tell a story to a provider of a service, the better that service provider can provide, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the type of unadulterated, uncensored, you know, deep want, need, and desire that you're responsible for getting. But that's a skill, right? If you're all worried about yourself, if you're just thinking about, oh, you know, I want to be better than them, you break all the rules of what we call the cardinal rules of sales, then you're never giving that other person the opportunity to really unload on you exactly what they want. And many of you here may be getting a lot of rejections. Like, no, I want to talk about it with my dog. I want to talk about it with my wife, my third wife, my fourth wife, my ex-wife, since we're already there. But I'm not ready to make a decision. Like, you got to be thinking, where did I go wrong? And I'm telling you, one of the main reasons you went wrong is that you were not skilled in the way for them to share with you and unload anything and everything they want deep in their core.
You hit that so hard. And it reminds me, you know, with my background, you know, as a chiropractor, I got into chiropractic because it changed my life. And, you know, I look at it as, when I first got out of practice, my mentor, who literally changed my life, got me, you know, invited me to his practice. We started working with him, and he said, hey, you know, I've done chiropractic this way, but you have such a way of bringing in people. I want you to do what you do and just bring people into practice. There really wasn't a lot of guidance, but I was good at that. And I noticed we would bring in about 800 to 1,000 people a week to the practice. We were busy, but guess what? We were starving.
Yeah.
We were starving because I felt horrible changing people's lives and charging them. And so many, and you out there, I know you are having the same problem. We have insurance agents who are spending hundreds of hours looking up, you know, building insurance plans and then just giving them away for free, giving away bids for free, spending hundreds of hours doing things. And being able to charge for your services is so critical, because you can't give what you don't have. If you're poor, you can't help someone be rich. If you're sick, you can't help someone be healthy. And you have a moral obligation to play big so you can give bigger. And Dan, I'd like to ask you a question within that. Why is it that people who want to be liked say and do things at the expense of themselves? So people will say, hey, they'll say things that either aren't true. They'll say things that aren't authentic to who themselves. Why do people do that?
I think it's our upbringing, and I'm a classic example of that. Don't rock the boat. Don't be confrontational. Don't make people feel uncomfortable. Don't create tension. Like, these are the things that personally I grew up with. And if I grew up with it, I'm pretty sure many of you out there are growing up with that as well. One of the words that you used to describe me in the beginning of this podcast, Jake, was disruptor. I love that. I mean, it's a cliche term, but disruptor. I love to disrupt. You know why? Because that challenges people, that challenges them. And if as a provider of a service that has the potential to save people's lives, and if you're out there, your service and your product has the potential to save people's lives. If you really, truly believe that, you must challenge your prospects in a different way for them to engage your particular product and service so that they actually say yes. Okay. Now, if you play it small, the antithesis of what Dr. J was talking about, if you don't challenge, what'll actually happen is that you create apathy in the marketplace. People who just don't really care about your brand or your service or your product, just kind of like right there. Got to tell you, in the history of business, all the big players right now and in the past have taken risks. How they do that? They challenged people. Okay. And we have a saying in our world at C4C, we call it tension drives the sale. And that gets a lot of crap because it's really, sometimes people take it out of context, but a little bit of tension challenges your people to make the right decision. Now, I'm going to bring parenting as an example, Jake. I mean, anyone out there who has kids, you understand, you want your kids to make the right decision. What do? You don't play it safe, right? You say, little Johnny, and you ask them questions in a way that challenges them for them to make the right decision, right? We all do that as parents. Where do we miss the boat when we're talking to our people, right? And so your avoidance of challenging your people the appropriate way, because there's obviously a wrong way to challenge them, your avoidance of trying to challenge them, okay, it makes you, again, just non-relevant. But what actually happened is that you felt safe. You stayed in the lanes. You didn't really make any waves. You didn't create any confrontation. And in the end, you felt safe at the expense of the person in front of you.
You hit something that is so critical. And the thought that comes to my mind is, in raising our kids, we can put every aspect of raising our kids into our careers and in our day-to-day operations. I have found personally that the best way to teach your kids lifelong lessons is participation. Let them participate in what you're doing. I was raised that way. My dad was a general contractor. I was on every one of his projects. We were cleaning up, we were framing, we were doing everything. And I know you were the same. I know in your family's store, you were participating and learning not only how to do business, but you were learning where you fit in that paradigm. I would love if you gave us a little glimpse of how you learned that lesson. And because of that lesson, how you take other entrepreneurs through that participation process.
Totally. And before I tell you the story that you're referring to, which is a great story, we're talking about mindset here. And I just want to just kind of backtrack here. To me, the proper mindset is a product of your experience. Yes. And your experiences only become experiences if you choose to experience it. So ultimately, it becomes a choice, right? What's not going to work for many of you, which I've tried, is read the hyped up books and just wish that you had a different mindset tomorrow. And maybe some people do it. I'm not of that person. I can't like will myself into a different mindset immediately. I'm just not there. Maybe it is in my future, but right now. So the experiences that you choose to be in creates the mentality and creates the mindset over time. And we were just talking about this off camera, Jake. Like, this is not an overnight thing. This is a consistent and persistent investment over time. So one of the experiences that I chose to be in that created that totally just changed my mindset is my dad, we had a bodega, okay, like a convenience store in a really rough part of Queens, New York. For those of you who are from New York, it was in Rosedale, Queens, right? We're off the expressway. And back then, the Frito-Lay truck doesn't come and deliver Frito-Lays at that volume, okay? So what my dad had to do is he had to go to a wholesaler. Back then it was called Jetro, right now known as Sam's Club or like Costco, same concept, but that type of building and shopping, it was not new. It was not new to me. Now that was what I grew up in. So I bring the big sleigh and he would, I would push it behind him and he would just point, Daniel-san, 2 box of water, and 4 box of M&M, all these things. And I would just load up the cart.
And by the way, if you guys are laughing, you're racist, right?
Right. You can't be racist
Dan
against
showed that
people.
to me when he gave that and people started laughing. He's like, "Are you laughing?" And people are like, "Oh," and then you're like, "No, please." The whole point is laugh, right? Exactly. I love that you're authentic. Anyway, keep going.
It's funny. I mean, my dad looks like Mr. Miyagi. No joke, looks a total dead ringer. Everyone said, "Oh, you Mr. Miyagi." It was so funny. Anyway,
and you are Daniel-san.
Daniel-san, right? And so he would tell me to load up the van. We drive the van. It's just like 5 a.m. Okay, I go to the store. I would unload everything, and that one particular day, I wanted to get out of the basement, right, in the stock room. And I was like, "Dad, can I stock the shelves?" Because stocking the shelves was like an art form. Like in retail, stocking the shelves is like a big deal. So I never understood back then why my dad would never let me stock the shelves. Plus, you had to price everything because back in the day, no barcoding. It was just like a sticker with the price on it. That's how we kept track of all of those things. So what happened was, and finally he said, so remember my decision to have an experience. I didn't know what I was going to experience, but I just wanted to do something that was so like not allowed, right? I was like, come on, dude, let me do it. So finally he goes, okay, Daniel-san, you stock a shelf, okay? You take a cracker, you price $2. And you do each one $2. I'm like, all right, Dad, give me the price gun. Let's do this. So I would price gun everything. I would put it on the shelves and, stock it. And then my dad goes, okay, how much each cracker? I'm like, $2. He's like, okay, how much will you buy cracker for? I'm like, dude, I didn't buy it. He's like, hits me in the head. No, how much I buy cracker for? And I said, I don't know. Look at the receipt. I look at the receipt, and let's say the crackers were a box of 10 for $10. So I'm thinking, okay, I did simple math in my head. It's like, yeah, each cracker is $1, Dad. He's like, okay, $1, and you price the gun. How much? I said $2. And then he walks away. And then a couple of minutes goes by. I'm like, remember, I'm like 13 years old. And I go, holy shit. This is how my dad makes money. Is this even legal? Wait, you buy a cracker, a package of crackers for $1. You sell it for $2. Whoa. This was my first experience with what we call a profit margin, right? So that was a business skill or a business mentality that I learned at 12, 13 years old, which mentally made me realize, how can we now I had to justify it, right? I had to justify it. How can he charge $2 for something he bought for $1? Well, let's see. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning. They'd start there, okay? I had to push a cart all the way through this damn forsaken building, right? I have to take tons of stock into the basement, right? There's a rent on this space, right? I have to deal with the crazy customers, right? Oh, now I have actually justified the profit margin for said product.
Boom. You brought up so many incredible mindsets, things that a lot of times is that there are things that happen that are outside of our control. But Dan taught something that is important, and that is accountability. We always have to look at everything we do in life and be accountable. How, okay, something happened that, hey, maybe you were forced, like, hey, you have no choice. You have to come with this. You have to come shop, but you chose to make that your experience. You chose to be accountable for what you were learning, because there are always going to be lessons in absolutely everything you do that will propel you. And so many of you, and I knew you specifically, you aren't charging what you're worth. You're not charging to really change people's lives. How many of you guys have actually heard? I mean, imagine saying, hey, we have people who say, hey, we heard you're the best. We're flying. We have a family that flew in from Russia, family that flew in from Ethiopia, family that flew in from Boston to see us. And if my prices, just as an example, if I had a $29 new patient special, do you think people would fly around the world? They're like, oh, I heard this guy's the best. What do you charge? $29.
Right. It's inconsistent.
It's inconsistent.
Yeah. Your pricing is almost what we call a bullshit meter element. It's like,
absolutely,
you're supposed to be the best, but why don't you charge like you're the best?
So
many incongruencies. Yeah, I agree.
You need to start with the end in mind. That mentality that, hey, once I'm here, I can charge here. Once I'm here, I can say here. Once I'm here, I can think there. We need to be and do what we want to be now and put those into play. And you are as authentic as they come, Dan. I absolutely love everything about who you are and the lives you're changing, not only in chiropractic, but throughout the world with your other businesses. It's been such an honor to have you. To close out, I would love people to be able to connect with you. Wherever you guys consume social media, Dan, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. It's my name. It's Bai, even though it's pronounced Bay. It's spelled Bai. That's for another time. And I do not own the beverage company. Okay, just let you know. I wish I did.
It's your cousin, right?
It's my cousin, right.
Yeah,
they're all related. You can also find me on Instagram. It's Daniel Bai, and I'm also on TikTok, Daniel Bai. Just Google me, you'll find me.
Awesome. You guys, thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Dan, thank you so much for teaching us that you can be your authentic self. Dan, if you would have given up in those first 3 years of school, the quantitative lives that would not be affected and saved because of you, Dan teaches the best doctors in the world how to be the best doctors in the world. And he can help you be the best you in your life by being your authentic self. Be who you are. You guys, Dan, again, we talked about humor, but that is one of Dan's many, many talents. But Dan has a sick talent for being able to build rapport, being able to understand people. Be authentic to who you are. Live who you are. You are good enough. You are more than enough. And if you look at your life's experiences that you are choosing to put into your life, they will propel you towards greatness. Dan, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you for teaching us that being you is more than enough, that it's okay to use humor in what you do if that's who you are. We appreciate you. I feel abundantly blessed to have had you on today. And with that, we're going to close out. But Dan, thanks for being on. And we got to have you on again in the future.
Thank you, Jake. The pleasure and the honor was all mine, my friend.
Take care.